sunny and 28 degrees. Well, McDonald is in the studio standing by. 9 News at 6 begins right now.
A message of strength and survival. Tonight, the powerful tribute from the second victim of the deadly Plimpton office stabbings. The Fed Up Adelaide charity in a drastic move to shame Christmas clean-out dumpers. Lives and homes lost. Queensland reels from catastrophic storms. Tributes to the Australian chef known as the Breakfast King following his shock death in London. And the skipper fires up the MCG on day 2 of the Boxing Day test.
This is Adelaide's 9 News.
Good evening. A week on from the horror daylight stabbing in Plimpton that claimed the life of a mother of 2, the survivor has spoken publicly about it for the first time. Kelly Hughes has been following the story. Kelly, she sent a powerful message.
Yes, and I spoke with her partner today, who said it is certainly reflective of a strong and powerful woman. The pair has thanked everyone in the community for their well wishes, and particularly the first responders who saved Susan Scardino's life. She was released from hospital on Tuesday after suffering serious injuries in the horror attack at her workplace last week. Her colleague and friend, 38-year-old Julie Seed, tragically died at the scene. In a post on social media, which she has asked to be shared widely, Susan called the recently released psychiatric patient who attacked them a coward who has achieved nothing, saying Julie may not be with us physically anymore, but you didn't snuff her light, you only made it shine brighter. Julie viewed the world and everything in it in a way few people take the time to, and now it bears as a reminder for everyone else to do the same. As for me, you only made me more determined than ever to create change and love harder with every breath and every second you tried to rob me of. I didn't lie down then, and I'm not about to now. She has also told friends and family she is doing okay and has asked the public to support a fundraiser set up by the real estate industry to help everyone affected. Will?
All right, Kelly Hughes, thank you. Charities across Adelaide are tonight issuing a plea for South Australians to not dump donations and goods outside their stores. Several op shops are already battling with post-Christmas clutter, leaving the organisations with costly clean-up bills.
Unloading a car boot of unwanted items, and with it, an unwanted mess. The Kidman Park Vinnie's op shop today, a dumping ground for goods. Others soon filmed creating more clutter, one even tossing an item onto the footpath. It creates an unsightly scene and charities are fed up.
Some days are much worse than others. Sometimes it'll take up to an hour to clean up in the mornings.
Vinnie's SA says the holiday season is one of the worst times of the year for dumping. And it's not the only charity affected. Volunteers across Adelaide today were greeted with multiple piles of unwanted items. It creates more work and more cost for the organisations.
This doesn't come for free. We don't want to pass that cost on to the charities that are doing the really excellent work in our community.
Volunteers say at least a quarter of the items dumped aren't fit for sale, with products often damaged when left outside and exposed.
It's really disheartening seeing things that could have been saleable and that people have donated, to try and help people in need, just having to go in the bin because they've all been destroyed.
Those wanting to do the right thing are being asked to donate during business hours. We're also being asked to make sure the items can actually help people in need and isn't just trash.
Make sure the items that you are donating are those that you would give to a friend.
So grateful for the donations, but make them count.
April Cretan, 9 News.
Christmas Day has come and gone, but a Grinch in the northeastern suburbs is still working to hurt the holiday spirit. Families in Newton waking up to find their festive light displays had been stolen. Security footage revealing a thief raiding their front yards under the cover of darkness.
An elaborate display pieced together over years, reduced to almost nothing in only a matter of minutes. He's a little late, but this Grinch is still out to steal the Christmas cheer, raiding a Newton home's front yard, taking off with lights and decorations.
Deliberate act, I'm thinking, and there's someone that's just cruising around and looking for easy targets.
It was definitely a
an investment there that, we won't get back.
Even the jolly man himself wasn't spared, plucked from the lawn of the Crozier Avenue home. Candy canes and a Christmas tree also taken just before 2 this morning. Owners Helena Lamaroff and Andrew Masici were asleep inside.
That's just a horrible feeling that someone would just feel that they can just walk in to your property and just help themselves.
Another home targeted, its lights also taken overnight. At one point, the thief ducks away to avoid being detected by a nearby driver. He soon returns to pulling the plug on the festive season.
We have a lot of children coming in the area and coming looking at our street and our decorations, so it's a little bit sad for the community.
With other residents adorning their homes with Christmas decorations, the victims have reported the theft to police in the hope he doesn't strike again.
He did have a white beard on the footage, but I don't think he was Santa though.
The couple determined to rebuild their collection.
Christmas lights bring joy not just to the people that have put them up, but to a broader community.
Shannon McDonald, 9 News.
Stolen vans gone up in smoke in Hellensley Avenue at Brooklyn Park. Police and fire crews were called there at midday, but the vehicle was destroyed. The Renault van had been stolen from a Glenelg supermarket car park on Saturday. 2 men have been caught red-handed breaking into Flaxmill School at Morford Vale. The pair found hiding under a classroom desk with pockets full of stolen stationery. Police responded to the school's alarm going off at 12:20 this morning. The 20 and 21-year-old locals will face court for serious criminal trespass next month. 6 people are dead after devastating storms swept through southeast Queensland. The deadly weather events also destroying homes and leaving thousands of people without power.
Ferocious and deadly. Queensland lashed by the mother of all storms.
Oh my God. Oh, they're firing! Oh, shit! Oh! Whoa! Oh, they're planned! No! Oh, the boat's gone!
Lightning, along with destructive winds and rain, wreaking havoc. Homes destroyed, leaving bewildered residents with nothing but rubble. 900 power lines down, tens of thousands left without electricity, trees uprooted. But the impact has been even more devastating. 9-year-old Mia Holland McCormack drowned after being swept away by surging waters in a storm drain in Brisbane South, despite the best efforts of paramedics. 3 women, also exploring a storm drain, were washed into the Mary River in Gympie. One managed to reach the bank and call for help. The bodies of her friends were recovered by rescuers. A major search was launched after a motorboat with 11 men on board capsized near Green Island in Moreton Bay. 8 people were rescued clinging to the hull of the boat, but 3 others didn't make it, found by specialist divers last night and this morning. They were all on an annual fishing trip.
I'm told the water conditions were horrific. The storm was still raging when they were rescued. I can't tell you how long. It would have been less than 45 minutes, but it would have been very difficult to survive in those conditions anywhere, let alone out on Moreton Bay.
A death toll that's shaken all.
The thoughts of all Queenslanders are with those families who are grieving right now.
Crews were out in force last night and today working to restore power, cleaning up the damage and protecting homes in communities battered by Mother Nature. Eddie Meyer, 9 News.
Bill Granger, the celebrity chef who took Australia's cafe culture around the world, has died after a private battle with cancer. Celebrated across our country and in London, the 54-year-old became known as the Breakfast King.
It's a dish so simple it barely requires a recipe.
And that's me on a plate.
But that humble plate of avocado on toast became the dish of a generation and made Bill Granger world-renowned.
It seems a strange claim to fame, but I'm willing to take it.
And today, as news broke of his passing, Sydney turned out for breakfast at Bill's.
We thought, it was sort of a nice touch of respect. Yeah, very sad, very young. We are happy to be here to celebrate his life.
We normally get avocado on toast, to be honest, so we remember him particularly for that great tradition.
The Granger family shared a statement this morning. Bill died peacefully in hospital with his wife Natalie Elliott and their 3 daughters Edie, Inez and Bunny at his bedside in their adopted home of London. He will be remembered as the king of breakfast for making unpretentious food into something special filled with sunshine. He will be deeply missed by all.
Bill was like just a really sunshine kind of person, high energy, really happy, kind of vivacious kind of guy.
It was October 1993 when a young Bill Granger opened his first cafe at Darlinghurst, an art student from Melbourne who'd taught himself to cook.
Because I was born in the back of a butcher shop. Shopkeeping was in my blood. My grandfather had butcher shops, my father had butcher shops, and the idea of having a restaurant was just my idea or my way of having a shop.
And it became an empire, the franchise expanding in the eastern suburbs of Sydney before he and wife Natalie took their breakfast business global. 19 restaurants in Japan, Korea and the UK.
Bill's like an Australian restaurant legend.
He used to rent our house in Notting Hill.
The father of 3 had been privately battling cancer, and his passing shocked not only his customers but his culinary peers. From Nigella Lawson, heartbroken, she remembered the joy he gave us, whether through his food, his books, the spaces he made for us, or in person. Fellow Melbourne boy Luke Mangan, Bill was one of the nicest, most gentle and humble cooks I've ever met. And Jamie Oliver said Bill had an extraordinary ease and style in cooking that could only come from Australia.
I kind of think of Bill as kind of the accidental restaurateur. He kind of opened the little Darlinghurst cafe, which was tiny with a little kitchen. And he would have had no idea that what it was going to become over the next 30 years.
Neil Perry has known Bill Granger his whole career and credits him with transforming Sydney's cafe culture and then taking it global.
He kind of reinvented it to kind of make it simple and approachable and delicious. A lot of the guys who do good breakfasts now would have always been inspired by what Bill was doing at Bill's back in Darlinghurst back in the early days. 14 cookbooks, 5 TV series and a Medal of the Order of Australia just this year. Now there's barely a breakfast menu in the world that doesn't carry the Bill Granger classic. So, what's the secret?
I like to crush it on the toast. I'm going to put some coriander on there, squeeze of lime juice, a little bit of salt. I like a little bit of chilli. And this is a time to break out your decent olive oil. And they're so simple, but absolutely perfect. And that's why it's one of my great dishes.
Bill Granger was 54. Liz Daniels, 9 News.
The Department of Foreign Affairs is urgently working to confirm reports of an Australian killed in the Israel-Gaza war. Family members of Ibrahim Bazi say he travelled from Sydney to Lebanon to meet his wife. Both were killed by an Israeli airstrike, according to reports from local media. 9 News has been unable to independently verify if the Israeli Defence Force was responsible. Warnings tonight about new financial pain for Australians because of the conflict, half a world away. Attacks on commercial ships in the Red Sea are having a severe impact on global trade. And consumers here won't be spared the fallout.
For a second day, bumper sales sent shoppers into a frenzy.
They're all good prices, just deciding which one.
I bought a big bag and I'm filling it up.
Snapping up cheap goods while the price is right. But there are warnings tonight the cost of some products could be about to rise.
There will be many supply chain knock-on effects.
Attacks on cargo ships in the Red Sea are escalating. The US military says it shot down 12 drones and multiple missiles fired by Houthi rebels in a 10-hour period yesterday. It's forcing major shipping companies to change course. Rather than steering through the Suez Canal, they're favouring a safer route around southern Africa, a journey taking 10 days longer and adding up to 15% to shipping costs.
That's basically the Europe-Asia trade with some trailing effects into Australia.
Australia's main exports to Europe are coal and gold, while we import cars, pharmaceuticals and some foods.
Overall, there are going to be some price increases. I expect them to be relatively marginal.
The bulk of our imports come from Asia, so they don't travel through the impacted region. But economists caution the ripple effects of the conflict are difficult to predict and could eventually drive up inflation at home.
If global supply chains are disrupted by developments in the Middle East and or we get a big increase in the price of oil, that would certainly be something that the Reserve Bank could focus on.
So far, volatility in global oil prices isn't being felt here at the petrol pump, but that could change.
The reality is, if the Middle East sneezes, the rest of us catches a cold. Having said that, as we speak today, we do not foresee prices going up based on what has happened overseas.
Eliza Edwards, 9 News.
The Albanese government appears to be losing support among families suffering from the high cost of living. Analysis of polls by Resolve Strategic shows Labor's primary vote dropped 6% in the past year among people aged between 35 and 54. Voters also turned on the party in the battleground election states of Queensland and Western Australia. Anthony Albanese retains his advantage, though, as preferred Prime Minister. A warning over water tonight as the weather finally warms up. As the urge to cool off increases, South Australian parents are being reminded of the dangers even the shallowest of pools can pose to children.
As little ones look to make a splash this summer, parents are being reminded to weigh up the risks of the water.
Children, particularly in this warm weather, do get drawn to water, and we want them to enjoy it, but we want them to enjoy it safely. That's not just in pools, that may be shell pools. It could be something as simple as a dog's bowl.
Safety around small amounts of water are a particular focus this summer, especially after Christmas.
We know lots of kids have got portable pools for Christmas. We know the weather is starting to warm up over the next few days.
Drownings across SA are declining, but young children remain our most vulnerable. Over the last 20 years, 28 children between the ages of 0 and 4 have drowned in South Australia. 50% of those occurred in a swimming pool, while 86% occurred following a fall into water.
Anytime I'm around water with my daughter, I'm always a little bit nervous. I think because, it only takes a puddle of water for a child to drown.
Experts say the solution is making sure children know the dangers that water presents. Water safety experts are urging parents to remain vigilant at all times, even when lifeguards are on duty.
Don't overestimate their skills. No matter if they've been in swimming lessons since they were 6 months old, you always need to have your eyes on the kids.
Essentially, they're not babysitters. They are there to keep the facility safe and ensure that people feel safe.
McDonald, 9 News.
An important Adelaide New Year's tradition's been staged again this year. Adelaide Metro offering free public transport, so all of those who are celebrating can get around safely. A ticket won't be needed to ride a bus, train or tram from 5 p.m. on New Year's Eve right through until 6 a.m. on New Year's Day, with extended services also running into the small hours. An amateur photographer on York Peninsula has taken some magnificent pictures of two sharks moving in on a school of salmon. The school of fish had suddenly changed its movements as he was watching from a cliff top. His drone camera then capturing the predators lurking within. There weren't any people in the water in that area at the time, thankfully, but local fisheries officers were still advised that the hungry sharks were there. Storms, violent wind changes and damaging seas. That's what the Sydney to Hobart fleet has endured in this year's race. Up front, the two Super Maxis, Andu Comanche and Law Connect, are in a tight battle for line honours.
Straight into the wind, pelted by rain and spray. Law Connect's crew drenched, battling this night and day. Mid this morning, hot favourite Andu Comanche was on the horizon.
That little we're down in front of them and straight lining.
But Law Connect's lead didn't last.
And we're able to get ahead of them this morning. And but now the breeze is back into the east, the smoke away. We've been missing our sail that we blew up last night.
Comanche, the biggest, fastest boat in the fleet, looking to defend last year's line honours.
We just need some opportunity.
Wild conditions forced nearly a dozen boats back to Sydney.
The whole rig has come a bit loose tonight.
Scallywag docked after breaking its bowsprit. The two-man crew from Rum Rebellion also home early after skipper Shane Connolly went overboard, luckily with a tether attached, and now a beer in hand. Arcadia was caught in the same squall, its mainsail destroyed.
They went from 6 knots to 32 knots.
Wild Thing 100 regained ground and great heights. It looks like a two-horse race to the finish, but it's still anyone's. Well, the sun is out here in Hobart. Celebrations are on ice at the Customs House Hotel. There are 70 kegs waiting for crews to cross the line, and there'll be a few rums for the sailors too.
I'll be setting an alarm and watching the radar and watching them come in, say congratulate them all.
In Hobart, Penelope Leash, 9 News.
Corey Norris is here with a look ahead to more sport. Corey, the Aussies in complete control at the MCG.
Yeah, they are, Will, and they've got Pat Cummins to thank. Good evening tonight. All the highlights from day 2 as our quick-thinking skipper causes Pakistan all kinds of problems. And why this young 36er star is continuing to go to new heights.
Thanks, Corey. See you soon. If heading overseas was too expensive for you this year, some relief is on the way. Airfares are set to drop in 2024. We'll tell you by how much next. Plus, the agonising moment a car with a child inside is stolen from a service station. Flying overseas has been an expensive process for Australians in recent times, but that might be about to change. Eddie Meyer has the details on just how much cheaper airfares could become.
The COVID-19 pandemic might be officially over, but its effects on the airline industry aren't. Capacity into and out of the country is still down by 500,000 seats a month, and that could only mean higher airfares, 40% higher between Sydney and London than pre-COVID, while travellers from Melbourne to Los Angeles are paying 65% more. That's expected to change this year with Qantas, Singapore Airlines and Thai Airways all adding more flights in coming months, while Turkish Airlines has just been given the green light to add up to 35 flights a week between Istanbul and Australia. That could slash fares to Europe by 10% alone.
Each of these new airlines unlocks competition. You can be sure that they will come on with new fares and discounts, and you can be sure that existing airlines are going to try and match those with deep discounts of their own.
As an example, in mid-January, flying Qantas from Sydney to New York costs $2,000 one way in economy. Mid-November, that drops to $1,700. Same flight with Singapore Airlines in February, $1,700 one way. By mid-November, that should be $1,200. So, no matter where you are, watch out for the sales.
A couple has endured a terrifying ordeal. Their car stolen at a petrol station with their 2 young children in the back seat. The Queensland couple desperately tried to stop the thief, but they were run down and left fearing the worst.
Unfolding in an instant, every parent's worst nightmare. You can hear the terror in this mother and father's screams. What followed the Christmas Day carjacking were 15 frightening minutes. The couple, who we can't identify for legal reasons, spent fearing the worst for their babies. The 2-year-old boy and 10-month-old girl strapped in to the back seat.
She was really distraught. She was losing her marbles a bit. I was just more in shock than anything else. I didn't know where to go from here.
The man responsible pouncing on the family as the father filled up his Nissan Pathfinder at the Pacific Petroleum fuel station south of Brisbane. Pushing the mother out the passenger door and leaping into the driver's seat, she was run over as he sped off.
I've tried to get in the car to try to stop him or something, and he just, from the force of the vehicle taking off, we both just fell to the ground.
Police say the man had attempted to steal a Mazda from a young woman only moments earlier, attacking her at this 7-Eleven just across the road. She suffered some injuries during the violent assault, but thankfully this couple's children were unharmed. Dropped at a nearby Woolworths shortly after the carjacking.
All he could say to me pretty much was like, there was a bad man, and the bad man was angry.
The man responsible was spotted driving erratically just minutes later. Tonight, police are still looking for him. Abby Guerin, 9 News.
Headaches for commuters in Melbourne today after this truck brought down tram wires. The vehicle misjudged the height of a rail bridge around lunchtime, sending sparks flying. Tram services were disrupted for most of the afternoon while workers made urgent repairs. The scientists on a mission in one of the world's most brutal places to find the ice that is 1.5 million years old. We'll have those details next, plus the intimate and unseen moments from King Charles's coronation. Russia has suffered a major setback in its war on Ukraine, with one of its warships damaged by an attack at a Black Sea port. One person was killed in the strike in Crimean waters, which has thrown Vladimir Putin's future plans in the region into question.
A flash ahead of the massive blast, the fireball shooting high into the night. Some nearby residents ducking for cover as the sky turned red. The impact from the blast felt in the port town of Feodosia, windows shattered and debris on the ground. The target of the Ukrainian air attack was the Russian warship Novocherkassk, a landing craft that can carry troops and vehicles. Kyiv says the ship had a deadly cargo, Iranian-made kamikaze drones. It's unconfirmed but could explain the power of the explosion. The Kremlin admitted the ship had been attacked but claimed the vessel was only damaged. The Ukrainian Air Force spokesman says photos show only a skeleton left of the ship. Everything else was burned. And Ukraine denied 2 of its jets were shot down. The news will not have been welcomed by Vladimir Putin as he greeted guests at a summit in St. Petersburg. It was a much-needed boost to Ukraine's military fortunes after signs of wavering support from some allies. The long-range missile which hit the Russian ship is believed to have been supplied by the UK, and Britain's Defence Secretary tweeted, "Those who believe there's a stalemate in the Ukraine war are wrong. Over the past 4 months, 20% of Russia's Black Sea fleet has been destroyed." In London, Brett McLeod, 9 News.
Documentary has given a behind-the-scenes look at the coronation of a British monarch. The BBC special takes viewers into the detailed planning for the ceremony and some deeply personal moments with King Charles and his family.
The weight of responsibility clear on his face as the day drew near.
And I'd hold it upright.
King Charles in rehearsal for his coronation, taking through each moment with meticulous care. There can be no mistakes.
Yes, you have to jam it on, so it has to come down to here first.
Just above your eyebrows.
Here first, and then push down.
That crown modified to fit just right.
It was very much a hands-on type of crown, this one. Given that it was made in 1660, by some poor souls sitting in a very cold workshop.
Goodness me.
Possibly with daylight, more likely by candlelight.
Without specs.
Wife Camilla taking it in her stride.
A tiny bit of oil, I promise. Just a dab. A dab. A dab. It is the merest dab.
An historic occasion for the world, but also an important moment for family.
I think what struck me particularly is how extraordinarily affectionate they are. They're clearly a very close family, of all the generations. And in a sense, you felt you're part of a family occasion.
His son, who may one day also be crowned at Westminster Abbey, playing a key role.
On the day, it's not going to go in, so that works.
You haven't got sausage fingers left, Mark.
No, well, I hope I get it in the right place.
This documentary is another example of the royal family attempting to modernise its image and endear themselves to the public, similar to the late Prince Philip's idea to televise the Queen's coronation in 1953. When it was all over, relief. The true work only just beginning, but by his side, his new Queen.
She is his rock, and I can't actually emphasise that enough. She's somebody who is completely loyal.
Her role and how much difference it makes to the King has been absolutely outstanding. And this role is not something that she would have been a natural for, but she does it really well.
In London, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
Firefighters in Florida have pulled off a daring rescue after a truck was left dangling from an overpass on a busy highway. The 18-wheeler nearly went over the side after crashing, crews using a ladder to reach the trapped driver. Firefighters say it led to 2 other cars crashing because the passing drivers were taking videos on their phones. A gas tanker in Colombia has exploded into flames just moments after crashing in a tunnel near Bogota. The driver of the tanker survived but was taken to hospital with serious injuries. The road was closed for several hours. American scientists are camping out in some of the coldest conditions on the planet to try and find out why the Earth is warming up. They're searching for a sample of the oldest ice in Antarctica that contains bubbles of greenhouse gases. The oldest sample at the moment goes back 800,000 years, but scientists are hunting for a sample that is 1.5 million years old. Cancer patients and their families are struggling financially with a record number of calls made to Cancer Council from people needing help. The mum of a young boy with leukaemia has put her business on hold to help him through treatment.
When professional photographer Penny McCready's 16-year-old son Lachlan was diagnosed with cancer a year ago, she had to put her business and income on hold.
It's quite scary. We got the phone call to say, take your child to hospital, he has leukaemia. And effectively from that moment, I haven't been able to work. Very minimal.
Relying on just her husband's income, the family is facing a rent increase and ongoing medical expenses.
The financial impact has been massive.
The Cancer Council helpline has been inundated with a 50% surge in calls this year. Most were for psychological support, followed by a 48% jump in calls about coping financially with cancer.
We put more financial counsellors on to meet that demand.
Many patients and family members are forced to quit work to cope with prolonged treatment.
But the cost of living doesn't stop, and all of the things that people need to manage, all of the bills, the mortgage, they keep coming.
The Cancer Council does have a free financial counselling program available to those who meet certain criteria. Call the helpline or go online for more information.
We've spent more nights in hospital than at home over the past 12 months. It's endless. It's endless. It's a 24/7 job.
Emily Rice, 9 News.
There's a new climate tracker tool. Find out what will change in your suburb. That story next. Plus, lotto luck. 3 Australians are now $32 million richer. For years, we've been warned our planet is getting warmer, but for the first time, you can now pinpoint how the climate is changing where you live. The Bureau of Meteorology has developed an online tool that reveals extreme heat waves are becoming more frequent in every Adelaide suburb, especially in the north.
John and Chris don't need air conditioning. They live in a heat-resistant cocoon of plants.
Lots of flowers on it.
It's a suburban jungle abundant with figs, pecans and apples, designed to keep them cool in the Adelaide summer.
You might think it's sort of a bit chaotic, but it's actually organised chaos because a lot of the things are put in specific places in order to help climate control.
It's the work not just of a gardener, but a scientist. John is a professor of environmental mathematics. His life's work examines how our cities can adapt to the changing climate. And he's worried that as Adelaide expands, it's becoming a sprawling heat trap, comprised of badly designed homes crammed in too close.
Most of Australians probably live in expensive tents. It overheats in summer and gets too cold in winter.
And that's a problem because temperatures are rising across Adelaide. The Bureau of Meteorology's new My Climate View tool charts suburb by suburb how many more very hot days there'll be in 2050. And it's bad news, especially in the north, where we can expect an extra 6 or 7 days above 35 degrees every year.
Heat waves are very serious and going to have a large impact on human health. With that extreme category, we can really see heat waves impacting on even healthy people.
Things have been warming up for quite some time. Back in the 90s here in Elizabeth, there were about 20 really hot days a year. That's now up to 26 days, and in another 50 years, residents will be sweltering through 35 days above 35 degrees. The city of Playford, home to some of the most rapidly warming suburbs, says it's taking urgent steps, ramping up tree planting and doing away with artificial turf that retains heat.
And it's really important that we continue to see investment by all levels of government in helping to mitigate and make our communities livable well into the future.
Professor John says a big change can start small.
A little bit of vegetation, strategically placed, can help a lot, and you should try and do that when you can.
Ben Terry, 9 News.
Owning a pet could be one way to prevent dementia. Research from a university in China has found living with a pet slows the decline of verbal memory for people over 50 who live alone. The study involved nearly 8,000 people, with a clinical trial now needed to confirm the findings. 3 lucky Australians have received a belated multi-million-dollar Christmas present, winning a share of the $90 million Oz Lotto. The trio, all from New South Wales, they'll walk away with more than $32.5 million each. Merry Christmas.
It'd be nice, wouldn't
it? Yeah, indeed. Corey Norris, it would. All right, let's have a look at sport. The Aussies well on top in the second test.
Yeah, they are, Will, and they've left Pakistan in a lot of trouble. Up next, all the highlights from the MCG as Captain Pat runs riot. The Aussies now limbering up for another quick kill. And the Sixers' big plans to keep DJ rocking in Adelaide. Hello again. A vicious spell from Pat Cummins has put Australia back in the box seat against Pakistan on day 2 at the MCG. With the hosts all out for 318, the skipper stood tall, claiming 3 crucial wickets to have the visitors 6 for 194 at stumps.
Boxing Day's rain was long gone, so both sides were out to make up for lost time.
Hamid.
That was Travis Head's first ball. He didn't face many more.
Edged and taken.
That brought Marsh and Marnus to the crease. Labuschagne passed 50, but Marsh was more aggressive.
He was waiting for it, didn't wait long, Mitchell Marsh. He knew it was coming.
His quick-fire 41, the only real highlight for Australia's batters today.
Edged and taken at first, Jamal.
Pakistan's fielding picking up.
Edged, oh, it's beautifully taken. An absolute beauty here.
Australia battered in the first session, losing 7 wickets before lunch, all out for 318. Lyon struck early with the ball.
He's got it.
But Masood
charges first ball.
And Shafiq took up the fight.
Short and dealt with by Shafiq.
Both passed 50, and for the first time in the series, the Aussies and the crowd were stretched. Enter Captain Cummins.
There's a full one. Captain Pat came back at speed. Shafiq can't believe it.
A stunning return reflex catch, followed by an almost unplayable off-cutter.
Got him! And it's an absolute beauty to remove Baba Azan, one of the best batters in the world.
Cummins wasn't done there.
Edged and taken by Carey. Cummins, you can't keep him down for long.
A third wicket in a stunning spell, putting his team firmly in control of the test. Luke Dovesey, 9 News.
36ers coach Scott Ninnis says re-signing DJ Vasiljevic is a top priority, confident the 26-year-old can be a cornerstone of the club's rebuild. It comes after the sharpshooter helped the Sixers snap a 4-game losing streak, but he's not the only one whose stock is rising.
He only has 4 points in his last 3 games, but still, there's no denying the mouth-watering potential of Trenton Flowers.
He's an enormous talent, you know. I mean, he's as athletically gifted as, you know, just about anyone I've ever seen.
The 19-year-old Flowers blooming, even if it's not necessarily showing up on the stat sheet, having risen from 56 all the way up to 26 in the latest NBA mock draft.
You know he's going to get there. You just have to look at some of the stuff he does on a day-to-day basis in training to know that you know, he's a really exciting talent.
He'll face another NBA hopeful and potential top pick Alex Sarr when the Sixers host Perth tomorrow night.
Having the win Christmas Eve and now to turn around and play a team the calibre of Perth is a real exciting challenge for us.
And while it's no secret Flowers' future lies in the NBA, securing the sharpshooting DJ Vasiljevic has quickly become the club's top priority.
Certainly at the top of my list to get him back, whether it's me coaching or someone else. I think there's a real cornerstone you can build around you know, for many years in the future.
He's shown that in spades this season, averaging a tidy 20 points per game, while Jacob Wiley's also proving a pillar worth building around.
The heart and soul of this club, you know, the energy that he brings and you know, the support he's been for me on and off the court's been enormous.
And after a turbulent month, Wiley and the rest of the Sixers are buying into Ninnis's grand plan of making the game fun again.
We need to bring enjoyment back to the game. You know, every one of these guys at some point in time started playing basketball because they loved it. And somewhere along the line we tend to lose that because it is a job. But, you know, I want to be able to make training sessions enjoyable and in turn play a style of game that is enjoyable as well.
Will Crouch, 9 News.
Well, as we heard earlier, there's a thrilling battle for line honours in what's been another gruelling Sydney to Hobart yacht race. Penelope Leash is at Constitution Dock. Penny, it's a race between two big supermaxis.
It certainly is, Corey. We've seen everything out there over the last day and a half, but Comanche has managed and still are holding on to that lead, which they have for most of this race so far. Law Connect still closely behind them, but it is stretching that gap a little, close to 12 nautical miles at the moment. As for the race record, which was set back in 2017 by Comanche, well, at times they've been around 12 hours behind that, so unlikely they're going to break another record, but we know anything could happen out at sea, and certainly anything could happen overnight. We are expecting to see first across the line here at Constitution Dock sometime tomorrow morning. So it will be a race to get up the Derwent and claim those line honours. At this stage, very much looking like a two-horse race with those two super maxis.
Yeah, a nail-biting finish. Thank you there, Penny. Well, rising tennis star Rinky Hijikata is steeling himself for a big summer. The 22-year-old Aussie will begin his campaign in Brisbane, where he's received a wild card alongside Alexander Vukic.
I can fly under the radar and, you know, there's not too many sets of eyes on me, so I feel like that's a great thing. You know, I think it just shows how strong the Aussie men are at the moment.
Out west, Australia's United Cup team enjoyed a low-key day, chilling with some quokkas on Rottnest Island. The mixed team event kicks off on Friday. Well, there's finally smiles at Old Trafford after Manchester United's stirring comeback victory over Aston Villa. On a dramatic Boxing Day in the Premier League, a young ball boy found himself at the centre of controversy.
Winless and scoreless in their last 4, and having suffered their most losses pre-Christmas, 13 in all competitions, since 1930, it looked like more of the same for Manchester United against third-placed Aston Villa.
Logley are marked, not in. Leander Dendonka with the finish for Villa.
But a silky Alejandro Garnacho levelled proceedings with a second-half brace. Then all eyes turned, but their old foes were still showing who's boss.
He's for Jota again. Still alive here, is in!
A routine 2-0 win sending Liverpool to the top of the table. Not everything went as smoothly for Fulham.
Well, there was a push on the ball boy.
A ball boy holding on to the match ball for too long, aggravating goalkeeper Bernd Leno, who was booed by Bournemouth fans. But a 3-0 win gave them something to cheer about.
Lining one up. Oh, it's a blistering strike!
In the NBA, Josh Giddey returned from an ankle injury, scoring 10 in the Thunder's 23-point win. Zanna Maguire, 9 News.
And that's our sport. We'll see you tomorrow, Will.
All right, thanks very much, Corey Norris. Well, the strange summer weather continues. A possible thunderstorm tomorrow. All the details coming up after the break. First, though, a look at the Thursday speed cameras.
Wake up and laugh with Adelaide's #1 breakfast show.
Rudits and Laws tomorrow on 104.7 Triple M.
For the latest Adelaide news and traffic.
To the weather, and it really was a lovely day across the city. We had a top of 26.5 degrees just after 4. Overnight, dropped down to 15.5. In the city at the moment, quite a balmy evening, 25.6 degrees. Across the suburbs today, Elizabeth 26, Mawson Lakes up to 28, Glenelg 25, a pleasant 24 at Noarlunga. Through the north of our state, up to 37 there at Coobapedy. The Clare Valley with 26 degrees, only 22 for Port Lincoln. Going through the south of our state, the Barossa 28 degrees, the same at Kadina. Kingscote with 22, only 18 degrees on Hindmarsh Island. Looking interstate for tomorrow, stormy weather up in Darwin, showers in Melbourne once again for day 3 of the Boxing Day test. Let's hope it doesn't happen. Sydney, sunny, 31 degrees there. Fine as well in Brisbane, but really warming up, 36 degrees. Back here in South Australia tomorrow, speaking of warming up, look at that, cracking 40 degrees up through the north of our state, 43 for Cooper Pedy, 38 degrees in Port Augusta, the Clare Valley 32, but as you can see, some unsettled conditions are moving in there, some stormy icons across that part of our state, through the south as well. Also possible storms through the Barossa later on, 31 degrees there. Renmark with 33, a windy 23 degrees over on Kangaroo Island. On the state's waters, as you can see, strong winds there through the western districts of South Australia. On metro waters, those winds won't be too bad. Easterly at 10 knots, then southwesterly 15 knots, picking up a little bit southeasterly as the day goes on. Seas around 1 metre. Through the suburbs tomorrow, warming up. 30 degrees, possible showers developing though at Elizabeth, Golden Grove 29, 27 degrees at Glenelg. And then for tomorrow in the city, partly cloudy, possible showers developing, even a possible thunderstorm in the afternoon and evening, a top of 29 degrees, dropping to 15 overnight. And then for the week ahead, Friday, 26 degrees, a pleasant day, drops down to 22 degrees there on Saturday. Sunday, sunny, 26, looking pretty good. And then, as you can see, we get a solid run of summer-like temperatures. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the sun should come out with tops of 28 degrees. And that is 9 News for this Wednesday. I do hope you can join me again tomorrow night at 6. I'm Will McDonald. Have a great evening. Good night.